lane. Let's talk about top lane. I don't want to do Yasuo right now, but let's talk about a top laner. Let's talk about a Renekton. Let's do it with a Renekton. Well, Renekton's interesting because Renekton has a stun. Actually, let's do the easy one. Singed XD. Well, we're going Courage of the Colossus. Let's be real here. This is obvious. And the question really is, do we want recovery or unyielding? And while unyielding is better and it's greedier and it gives you, I don't want to say better, it gives you a lot of stats, and a lot of stats feels really good to have. When you ult, you get more stats. Singed's biggest problem is winning the laning phase and not losing in laning. So recovery, is a thing. Tough skin. I mean, this really depends on how good you are at playing Singed. And I'm a bad Singed, so I don't know what to tell you. I mean, tough skin is always some level of useful in the laning phase. The question is, if you're proxying, you want Explorer so that you can run through brush, run through the river, and get the hell away from getting ganked. If you're not proxying and you can't win your laning phase, you're under your turret getting blasted, and you want Siege Master. All three of these, you can make a case for them being the correct mastery for Singed. And I don't actually know what's best. I don't. This is gonna be me making a guess, and I don't know. I mean, tough skin is risk averse. It's useful always. But Explorer feels really nice. Like, the more I think about it, the more I like it. But I don't know what's actually correct here. Singed is a big regen boy. We probably go Runic Armor. Healing 600 HP is definitely going to happen for Singed every time he respawns. So this feels fine to go for Runic Armor. Heal off of a Rod of Ages or whatever else you're doing. I think that's reasonable. Okay, well, I managed to almost crash my client. Okay, we're good. We're back. Yeah, Insight. I mean, you can make a case for Perseverance. You can make a case for Fearless, to be honest. But it's Insight, so we're going to keep with that for now. Swiftness, I think, is an obvious choice. And here we are, Courage of the Colossus. And the funny thing is, if you're ever in a rush, you don't know what to go, you can just run down the left-hand side. It's not always optimal, but hey, you just go in a row, click, 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 and then Courage if you have CC. And if you're in a rush, you're going to find pretty good keystones. I mean, none of these are terrible. These are all going to be useful at some point in the game. Runic Armor is somewhat debatable, but still quite good. And then, hey, your first fling every teamfight gives you a huge shield. That feels great. Okay, well, now what else do we get on Singed? Well, move speed out of combat, Poison Trail's on. At the same time, Savagery kind of sucks. Let's start at 12 pointers. Okay, well, this is not all that useful. I mean, as soon as I step in a brush, my Poison Trail triggers it right away. Dangerous Game is nice if I'm actually getting the assists to refill my, stature and whatnot. And Bandit's actually not too bad because, I might miss last hits and I might land auto attacks. It's reasonable. Meditation's nice to have bonus regen. I mean, that doesn't suck. Assassin is okay, I guess. I mean, Secret Stash is okay. I mean, these don't feel amazing, to be honest. But hey, Sorcery feels pretty cool. Feast heals me. Actually, Exposed Weakness sounds great because, I mean, ideally I am going to be team fighting using Poison Trail. Exposed Weakness seems great on Singed. This feels kind of nice to have, to be honest. Natural Talent into Vampirism. And then, Battle Trance feels really good on Singed. And, I'm sure this is not the common Singed mastery page. And I'm sure there's some Singed expert out there who knows better than I do. But, I mean, this feels pretty good. Like, this feels like things that I would want to do. Not specifically Singed. It's kind of him on his own. But, you kind of think about what stuff is cool and what a champion wants to do. Kled we're going to remove because screw that champion. But, let's do like a... if we do like a Renekton, that feels fun, right? And it's like, hey, well, right now it feels like Courage of the Colossus is insane. And I'm pretty sure it is, to be honest. Now, keep in mind, Fervor only stacks by landing a basic attack. The Renekton's attack speed is not very high. It's not going to stack that quickly. But your W is a free stun, and as soon as you stun somebody, you get a big shield. And now they don't have to trade back with you, and they're probably not going to be able to in any way, but they're not going to enjoy it. Recovery, actually a bit less useful than it would otherwise be on Renekton because he has so much regen regardless. We're probably still going to go for it. Almost doesn't need Siege Master because Renekton should not be pushed under his turret. So, Tough Skin is fine, I guess. I mean, Explorer is pretty good too, but I think Tough Skin's great. He's a regen user. Renekton's going to heal himself a ton, so yeah, Runic Armor for sure. We know about Insight already. We know about Swiftness already. We know about Courage of the Colossus already. Like, these right here, at least these bottom three, are going to be pretty ubiquitous. if you're doing Courage of the Colossus, you're probably doing these three. Almost always. Except for supports who are over there. What else does Renekton want to do? Well, it's up to him, of course. Hitting champions with basic attacks generates a fervor stack. Stacks of fervor last 4 seconds and increase your AD by 1 to 6 for each stack. Fervor does not increase by spells. Not according to the tooltip and not according to what I've played so far. This is good on Renekton. This is honestly not bad on Riven. It's very easy for Riven to stun somebody. I don't think it's amazing on Riven, but I mean, it's useful-ish. It's okay, well, what else does Renekton want to do? I mean, he wants to be durable a little bit. And, you know, it's hard to get Greenfather's Gift to trigger because if you E, you're going to hit a minion and that's going to go away. But hey, maybe you want damage. And attack speed versus spells, I think, is debatable. I think both make sense. To my knowledge, sorcery does affect his W. It affects spells that are auto attacks. You know, there's another reasonable exposed weakness here, or you can just simply go fresh blood and try to fight better. I think that's totally fine. You know, we can do some of this stuff as well. He's got regen, but at one point never hurt. And then double-edged sword feels kind of bad. Battle trance feels okay. Bounty hunter feels a bit mediocre. You know, you can do something like this. I don't know if it's exactly correct, but maybe it is. You can certainly make a point for going savagery and merciless and stuff as well, but this feels pretty good for someone like a Renekton who, you know, does want to be durable in the front line in some way, right? He does have a reason to have a big shield. You know, obviously remove this singed one because we already did a singed page, but, you know, what other top lane can we look at? We did Rumble before when we did, like... Alright, we'll do Gangplank because Gangplank is unique. Yeah, so Gangplank is an interesting case because he's a Storm Raider Surge, a Thunderlord's Decree, or a Grasp of the Undying user. He's one of these three. He has no hard CC, so no courage, and there's no way he's going to use Bond of Stone. He's not going to stack Fervor, and he's not going to use Warlord's Bloodlust. And he's not going to ever have the raw AD for Deathfire Touch. So he's Storm Raider Surge, he's Thunderlord's Decree, or he's Grasp of the Undying. And the thing is, it depends what your matchup is. So here's the interesting thing is, we already know that Gangplank really not only wants to zig-a-zig-ah, but also, actually, I might just do that, really likes Bandit. Because his Q works with Bandit. If I Q you, I get 10 gold. That's awesome. That's great. That sounds wonderful. It's better than Parley last hitting minions. It's more gold than Parley last hitting minions, and you still got to last hit minions on your own. And you know this doesn't affect barrel usage by any means, but I get 10 gold for that. So the question still remains, though, what keystone are we going for? We don't know yet, right? We're still trying to figure that out. And it's debatable. It is not hard for Gangplank to get this damage down. We talked about this earlier with something like top lane Kha'Zix. The ability to get away from a scary gank is very useful, and landing a barrel. I mean, the funny thing is, if you land a barrel, you've slowed them and probably gotten away anyway, right? So situations in which you trigger Storm Raider Surge are situations in which you probably get out because you've slowed them. Thunderlords is good because it affects your ultimate, but it is otherwise very difficult to trigger Thunderlord's Decree. And the other thought is Grasp of the Undying is also very easy to trigger. You auto attack and last hit minions, and you Q a guy in the face, and you do 6%, you do 3% of your max health, which is, you know, 20 damage or something in the early game. It's not a ton, but it's something, and you know, it adds up over time. And hey, that's nice, and you heal yourself, and you can stay in lane a little bit longer. And you know, it's not like these masteries are bad by any means. It's doable. Nothing feels super amazing on Gangplank, honestly. Like, there's 3 obvious choices for Keystone, and none of them have really amazing synergy. You also have to make a decision between precision and intelligence. Now, I don't know the up-to-date Gangplank builds anymore. Gangplank hasn't been seen professionally for several months. And there used to be a lot of ways to build him. One of the more recent ones was a heavy armor penetration focus with like Yomu's Ghost Blade and sometimes even Duskblade itself. And the goal was that you would just have a bunch of raw armor pen, and you didn't care about critting, you just wanted to have really high raw damage numbers. And with your high raw damage numbers, you'd want to go precision and be awesome. The other thought is, well, you really, really, really just need to have barrels. You're heavily gated on having barrels available, and you're going to get a Trinity Forest, you're going to get a Yomu's, and you might even get cooldown boots, and you're going to have that 40% CDR pretty easily, so why not get 45% CDR? That's a big boost, and I kind of fall into that camp. I really like the idea of running intelligence on Gangplank. I think it's really good. And you know, I very much like the idea of doing something like this and getting more value. And so I really like this as the idea. And Storm Raiders, again, you know, sometimes literally just like casting your ult across the map will let you Storm Raiders and run faster. I mean, Thunderlords, you land your ultimate, you trigger Thunderlords on somebody. They get hit pretty hard. Feels good. But really, outside of your ultimate, you will not trigger Thunderlords. It will not go off, which is why a lot of people were going Grasp of the Undying before, is because back in the middle of 2016, when he was getting played a lot, the goal was you did this, and you just tried to be tanky. You did this, and you just tried to not die. You just, oh, I have regen, I take less damage. Oh, I have regen. Oh, I have flash up all the time. Okay, I can't be stunned. Okay, maybe they did this because it's up to them. Who knows? This is probably still better. And then they would just grasp to stay at full health because they knew Gangplanks didn't need efficient runes or efficient masteries to be good, because all they had to do was not die, and if they didn't die, they became late game Gangplank. And again, I've said it several times in the stream, but your early game is the most important phase of the game for your individual success. Your early game will always matter. Your late game might not. The game might be over before then. But your Gangplank might just need to live, and this is fine. This is an okay way to play. This is in no way wrong. And I want you guys to realize that this is in no way wrong to go this way. This is totally fine. And it might just be the right choice, because I'm going to parlay you, gain 10 gold, heal, and do bonus damage. It means I miss out on CDR, and that's unfortunate, but that's okay. Or, yeah, you go Intelligence, and you probably go Thunderlords. You can just make your ultimate do more damage. If you ever really do get to extended trade, you can get it with auto attacks. And, yeah, you can choose to say, well, you know, if I'm already going to parlay you for Fresh Blood, you know, that's fine then. Exposed Weakness is also great on Gangplank because you're going to land that ultimate. Like, keep in mind, like, if I, like, getting Exposed Weakness and getting Thunderlords makes your ultimate amazing. You drop it down, you trigger Thunderlords on the target, and your team, as they chase that guy down, just massacre that guy. But if you're worried about surviving the landing phase, you need Feast. Do something like this, and then, again, Double-Edged Sword is a debatable choice. I think Bounty Hunter is fine. Gangplank is not landing a lot of poke before his damage. His damage is all front-loaded. Battle Trance is terrible, I think, on Gangplank. You just have to make the choice. Do I Double-Edged Sword, or do I Bounty Hunter? And Double-Edged Sword feels very risky and can get you killed. So I don't super love it. But I think it's not too hard to get last hits on Chaebits' Gangplank and start stacking Bounty Hunter. So this would be the risky-er choice, but feels pretty good. Someone asks, why wouldn't Deathfire Touch be good? Because Gangplank is just not going to have that much raw attack damage. He's going to have Trinity Force, and he's going to have a bunch of armor pen items, and it just doesn't feel like it lines up appropriately. I don't know, it's a feel thing, and you know, I can see why it could be good. it just doesn't really feel correct to do that. And I don't have a good way of explaining it. And you know, it might be the right choice. It just, in my mind, it doesn't feel that way. So let's talk about one more champion. Who else? Should we cover? What's another champion archetype to cover? Yeah, let's talk about alphabetical fighters. Okay. Maybe we talk about Trundle. Tanks. Oh, we did Singed, but you know, maybe we look at like a Nautilus or something. Let's look at Nautilus and let's look at Trundle. Let's look at Poppy. Those are the guys we're gonna look at next. So what's Nautilus gonna do? Well, the very obvious thing is Courage of the Colossus. Same goes for Poppy, to be honest, almost definitely. So we say, okay, well, let's have some regen. You know, Siege Master, Tough Skin's debatable. I actually like Siege Master. I'm going to go with it. Explorer can be very good too. Nautilus shield strength is actually relevant to his damage output, which, you know, is close against veteran scars. And, you know, this I think is very debatable here. But we're going to go with Runic Armor right now. Insight right now feels obvious. I think we definitely go Swiftness here. And then, yeah, Courage of the Colossus, because you have hard CC in your kit. Getting a big shield feels great. So now we choose between going into the Cunning Tree or going to the Ferocity Tree. Ferocity Tree really can only give us damage, and we could do something like this. You know, something like this, and, you know, Battle Trance feels a little weird, but hey, over the course of the fight, I'm getting pretty threatening as my, you know, second, third, fourth E comes off cooldown, and, you know, this allows me to just wait in the middle of a fight, trigger Courage of the Colossus, and just start wreaking havoc and buffing all the damage output everywhere. This actually feels pretty reasonable. The other option is to, you know, let's say we use Wanderer because maybe we don't really need the Savage Reach for last hitting tools. Assassin feels a little weak, but it'll help me win the 1v1 in my laning phase. We have Meditation because I don't really need Merciless, and, you know, we get ourselves some nice dangerous games so that in the team fights, if I'm alive, I stay alive, and, you know, now I engage and I get really tanky and I pop Courage of the Colossus, and then, well, they don't want to hit me because I've got a bunch of shields, but if I do take damage, I heal back up, and, you know, it actually does feel a little bit better doing it this way. I kind of like this for Nautilus. This feels nice for Nautilus. All right, what about Poppy? What if we're playing Poppy or something? Actually, I should undo this. Don't want to save because Renekton actually has a sort of unique page. Okay, that's not true. I take that back. It's identical. So we're gonna just go into Poppy then. And Poppy, once again, we probably just start like this, and this is probably reasonable. You know, it's Siege Master feels okay too. You will at some point get pushed in. You might care about that. Explorer is pretty good as well for roaming. This is up to you. And the thing is, actually, Poppy is very movement speed based because she needs to line up her tackle. She needs to line up her heroic charge, the E. And so Explorer has extra value on Poppy because she needs to get to her target and she needs to get the right angle. So I actually like Explorer on her quite a bit for that reason. We actually might switch Runic Armor to simply Veteran Scars because I'm not going to get a lot of value out of this, I think, pretty frequently, but the health is always good, so I might just go here. Insight for sure, Swiftness for sure, Courage of the Colossus because no duh. Okay, and once again, I have to make this choice. Do I go, you know, Ferocity, do I go Cunning? And again, I don't think there's a lot of really obvious easy wins. Assassin helps you win the laning phase. Exposed Weakness helps you win team fights. You know, Battle Trance is nice, but whatever. Whereas Dangerous Game, I feel like, and actually, no, there's an obvious choice here, and it's this. It's getting banded. Because Poppy's passive, the Buckler counts the melee auto attack, and anytime my Buckler is up, I'm going to run up and dink you for 10 gold. And it's like, so, and someone asks, why isn't Poppy's passive itself shield? It is. And it would work with Runic Armor. Problem is, no one trades into you when you've got Runic Armor, or when you've got your shield on. In the laning phase, They're just not going to hit you. They're just going to let it time out, and they're going to play around it. And that's just how they're going to play that phase. In a team fight, unless you shield for 600 HP, you'd rather just have 50 health. You need 600 health from shielding in a team fight to make up for veteran scars, which you're not going to do. You're not going to get 600 points in shielding. That they're going to push through. Or at this point, 650, 648 technically would be the number there, but like that's not going to happen. You're not going to get that much. So I don't think you're actually going to get a lot of value out of runic armor. And the way Poppy plays her landing phase is actually a lot. Is she's not sitting there regenning for that long of time. So this feels like, to me, sort of an obvious choice to do it this way. And let's do Trundle. So delete the Gangplank page because I don't care enough about him. I don't really play the champion that much. So what about a fighter like Trundle? What would this kind of champion do? Well, can't trigger Courage. Can certainly trigger Grasp of the Undying, and I almost definitely will. Theoretically, there's value in Storm Raider's Surge, but this doesn't help you win lane, whereas Grasp of the Undying does. You could really do Unyielding instead of Recovery because you've got so much regen already. You probably don't need anything from Recovery, and you can just do that instead. Trundle, might get pushed and might get harassed. If he's under turret, Siege Master is great. I mean, Trundle's early wave clear kind of sucks, and Siege Master feels pretty good for that. So this feels kind of nice to do. Obviously, he's a regen god, so Runic Armor makes a ton of sense. Insight for obvious reasons, Swiftness for obvious reasons, and Grasp of the Undying because it's easily his best fighting keystone. Okay, great. This is how we start with Trundle because we know we're going Grasp, and these choices all seem to make sense for us. Excuse me. And then again, you have to make the choice. Do we go into ramping damage? And I would say yes. So, we can go for Assassin, and we can, duel on the landing phase a little bit better, and we can use Meditation or Merciless to get a little bit done. And, Dangerous Game can be useful and all this stuff, but really it just feels like Fury does better things for you. Maybe you don't need the extra sustain from Feast. Maybe you get the auto attack buff. You don't spread damage wide enough to use Exposed Weakness. I don't think there's any value here, but Fresh Blood I feel like you can actually make use out of. If you're ever trading, I mean, you're already using Grasp. You might as well get Fresh Blood in there as well and trigger them together. This is debatable, honestly. It's close. The thing is, you have so much regen, you almost don't need the extra bits. Whereas Natural Talent just is going to be good kind of at all times. It's a close call. You could go either way. I'm going to go Natural Talent, but it might be wrong. I think based on the matchup, if you're placing against like a Jace, you do like Vampirism and Feast, and, then it's better. But if you're not, I think you do this. If your matchup is a bit easy, you do something like that. I think you definitely do not Double-Edged Sword on a melee top laner. I think you won't get enough kills for Bounty Hunter, but you will certainly survive a long team fight and get a lot of Battle Trance. And so again, right, all we did for all these mastery pages, we said, okay, what keystone makes the most sense for us? And, it wasn't Bloodlust, it wasn't Fervor, it wasn't Deathfire Touch, it wasn't Storm Raiders because it just doesn't do anything in the landing phase a lot of the time. He can't burst trivially enough to get Storm Raiders to like run away from a gank, for example. Thunderlords, yeah, it would be useful, but it's useful on anyone. But Grasp the Undying does like some real things for Trundle, and that's where we ended up.